Well, it's now the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to pull data out of a database. So I'm going to open the getdata.php page. That's the page you're looking at. And what we're going to do is use the record set builder in Dreamweaver and add a query right down in this area on this page. So I'll move that down a little bit so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Now, in order to create a query to pull data out of the database, I'm going to go over to the Bindings panel. I'm going to hit the plus sign in the Bindings panel, and you may or may not have this particular item in this panel already. Don't worry about it. We're not using this on this page in any way, so it makes no difference in your Dreamweaver environment. We're going to create some new information within this panel. So click the plus sign. What we want to do is build a record set. Now, this record set environment, this panel has actually two sections to it. This is known as the simple interface. It allows us to connect to only one table at a time. If I click the advanced interface, what this does is allow me to handwrite my SQL statement. So this is showing you the actual SQL statement in easy-to-read format. So if you're not familiar with SQL and you're just pulling data or working with one table at a time, it's a good idea to move into this. So set up your query in the simple interface, then click on Advanced and view what Dreamweaver created. It'll make you aware of some of the SQL statements, get you familiar with looking at them. You can also, in this advanced interface, create SQL queries down in this area. I'm going to go back to the simple interface. We'll start here. Now I need to name this particular query. Generally speaking, you use a Q in front of whatever your name is. So I'm going to do a Q, and let's see, should we do countries or tables? Let's pull out the countries. So we'll do Q countries. I generally try and describe what it is we're doing. The connection piece, we defined our connection. We have a connection already set up in Dreamweaver. So that's why this one is showing, and it's the only connection we have at this point. If we didn't have one showing in here, we could click this to define one. Now within that database, because this is basically telling PHP which database to access, here are the tables within that database. So make sure the countries table is chosen. Now this piece here, do we want to select everything within that table, or do we want to just select certain things? In the selected, I'm going to check that checkbox. Now you can see I can access these. If I'm in all, Dreamweaver assumes you want everything, so it doesn't let you select them. So I'll go over to selected, click on country name, and down in the sort area, I'm going to sort by country name ascending order. This is going to put our country names in alphabetical order. Now, it's always a good idea to test your queries. Make sure it's the right data before you try and work with it. And there's my test. We have 23 countries to which we offer tours, and they're all listed in alphabetical order, just like I asked for. I'll click OK, and I'm going to click OK here. Now, once I do that, Dreamweaver places a record set inside your bindings panel. This is the name of the query, and this is the data coming out. So how do I place this information onto the page once it's in the bindings panel? Well, it doesn't get any simpler than this. Drag country name out onto the page. There's our data. Now I'm going to use live view here for a quick look at our data. I'll click yes. Notice we only get one item pulled in. So there's one other piece I need to set up inside of here using a Dreamweaver server behavior. Anytime you create a query and add it to the page, it's only going to run once. So we need to modify that. I'm going to select that query. And what we need to do is tell PHP, okay, for every country name in our database, you need to repeat printing it to the page. We want every country name printed to the page. So PHP has to do the same request over and over and over and over. In other words, as long as there's another country, print it onto the page. There's quite a bit of code involved in doing that. We have to do something called a looping statement. And so in order to do that real easily, we can use Dreamweaver. Go over to the server behaviors, and as long as you have that country name selected in your design view, I'm going to click the plus sign and say repeat region. In other words, I want to repeat this over and over and over until there aren't any more queries or there isn't any more query data to print. Here's the record set I want to print, and I'm going to say show everything. If I say show only 10 at a time, I need a way to get between the pages, and we know we have more than 10. I'll show you how to do that type of thing in another movie later in the course. So I'll just say all records for here, click OK. You'll see you get this little repeat tab. Now, once you begin to add all of this code, you can see there's little PHP code blocks being added. There's information, a lot of information up at the top of the page that Dreamweaver creates. So it's very important not to dig around in any of this code. There's also a piece at the bottom. So modifying this information, once you add it to the page, just be careful. If I wanted to get rid of that repeat region, I didn't want any of these anymore, I would select it and hit the minus. Let Dreamweaver remove the information for you, because there's little snippets of code throughout your page. Let's take a look in live view. I'll save my changes and look at that. All of our countries are nice and neatly printed on the page. If I take this out to the browser, and for those of you who don't have this live view button in prior versions of Dreamweaver, just take it right to the browser to preview. And there's our web page. We just pulled data out of the database and printed it onto the page. You can see Dreamweaver makes that process so easy. Now, I do have some extra space in here. I had this page opened up a little bit so it didn't look so funny when we first opened the page. So I'll get rid of this extra information just by hitting the backspace or delete key. Let's take a look one last time. Take a look at our page, and that looks much better. So that's how you get database data and let Dreamweaver display it onto the page for you, and also make sure every piece of database data is displayed on the page. Dreamweaver makes this process so easy, it's wonderful. If for some reason your database data did not come out correctly on the page, like mine did, go over, delete the record set by selecting it and hitting the minus, and just start that process over again. Don't try and fight with any of the information on the page. Just go ahead and delete it and do it again. Dreamweaver makes this process so simple that it's just best to start from the beginning. So that is how you pull data from the database and let Dreamweaver display it on your page.